Hi, I'm Kayleigh. I'm a social worker in the northwest of England, and I have had experience working mainly in adult services. I've worked in multiple different hospital settings, acute and community hospitals. I've worked in rehabilitation centres and also in a larger community team, as well as within a neighbourhood hub where I was working predominantly with district nurses, occupational therapists and physiotherapists. I'm also a best interest assessor and a practice educator. I think the key issue in social work with adults is really around choice and autonomy, of promoting and protecting people's rights to make their own decisions. So there is a bit of a debate in social work around care and control, and we do have to safeguard people. Everyone has a right to live free from abuse and neglect, but we cannot neglect people's also their rights to make decisions about themselves. And really it's the number one thing that matters to adults. We all should have choice over our own lives, or our lives become meaningless. I think that that's something that can easily be taken away when someone may be struggling, if they have a physical disability, a mental impairment or illness. And I think that it can be unintentional. People may have the best of intentions or care for people who are struggling, but actually it's not the right thing if we're taking over people's lives and not having any sort of awareness of what's important and what matters to them. So I've been in situations where the meetings with multiple professionals and family members, and people are really concerned about the physical safety and well-being of that person, but in focusing on that, we can overemphasize that aspect and really minimise other aspects like someone's happiness. And under the Care Act, there's no hierarchy to well-being, so we also need to think about the person holistically. And I think that that's something I've learned. So for example, I was supporting a lady who was in a relationship that the family didn't agree with. As a result, their partner had been taken away when they were end of life to another area, and the other partner did not see them when they were passing away, and they wanted to go back to their own home where the memories of that person were. The other people involved felt that that was not appropriate. The person would be completely unsafe if they returned home. But what was being underestimated was really that person had the choice of what they wanted to do, and what they wanted to do was return home. And actually there was not really an indication that that person was unable to make that decision when assessments were done. So under the legislation that we were working under, the others involved have no right really to stop that from happening. And that can be a really difficult place to be if people have serious concerns. But at that point, really our job is to acknowledge those risks and make sure we're looking at them, because we cannot just ignore them if they're there and we're there involved in supporting people, because we need to sort of factor that in and manage them effectively. But it's also about positive risk taking, which means we're not overdoing it. We're taking the least restrictive approach to the situation and the risks presented. And we're being balanced, so we're not going in there really heavy-handed. We're thinking what's important to that person and how am I going to help them to live the life the way they want to. So I knew that it was important for them to get back home, but I was really concerned about risks, particularly fire risks. So I got the fire safety team involved, we got fire retardant bedding, things like that. And also I put in additional support so that that person would have less gaps in between their care visits. And it's always really difficult in real life practice because resources are scarce, and sometimes we can't put sort of a safety blanket around someone in these high risk situations. But all we can do is really think about backing up what we're doing and showing that we're trying our best to do it, and sort of keeping good records. And sometimes as professionals we actually need to take a step back and think, whose needs are we really considering here? Are we protecting the person in what we're doing here, or are we actually trying to protect ourselves? So sometimes professionals can be worried about their own practice, like are they going to lose their job as a result of taking these risks? And it's always useful to be balanced in situations like that and realise like why you're doing what you're doing, what legislation you're working under, and getting the support from managers, because it can be a scary thing when you feel like you're dealing with those situations. But we really need to focus on the dignity that comes with people making their own choices. And I've worked with people even with the most advanced dementia, and we've found ways to help them have control over their situation and identify the strengths, even if they're not immediately obvious. So I was involved with someone who forgot almost everything that was to do with themselves and their identity, but I knew that they'd been a cleaner in the past, spoke with the care home, and they were able to give them more control over their life by giving them little jobs around the care home, so they felt like they were employed there and they were happy with that. And it may sound like something you wouldn't want to do if you want to just have a bit of a relaxing time, but for that person, she felt then that she was living the life she wanted and was a lot happier. So I think it's about thinking about the dignity and worth in every individual, no matter how many obstacles are in their way.